Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Forgive me, I wanted to begin with a special verse, and it's going to take me about 15 seconds to find it, hopefully. Okay. Okay. All right, give me a second. Here it is. Okay. This is a verse spoken by Uddhava. Now there's another Gita called the Uddhava Gita, in which Krishna speaks to Uddhava in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he deals with many of the same subjects, but I think it's longer, into more detail. So Uddhava is praying to Krishna before this Uddhava Gita. And he says, Dashtam janam sapatitam bilesmin kalahina chuddha sukhoru tarsham samudharainam kripayapavargyar pachobirasincha mahanubhava. O Almighty Lord Krishna, please be merciful and uplift this hopeless living entity who has fallen into the dark hole of material existence where the snake of time has bitten him. Despite such abominable conditions, this poor living entity has tremendous desire to relish the most insignificant material happiness. Please save me, my Lord, by pouring down the nectar of your instructions, which awaken one to spiritual freedom. What do you think? Nice introductory verse for Bhagavad Gita. And now we will hear Krishna's nectarian instructions. Okay, just give me a second here. Get back to normal. Okay, now, where are we? Text 42? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this second day of September 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 10, The Opulence of the Absolute, text 42 on the bottom of page 457. Atava Bahonaitena Kim Gyatena Tavarjuna Vishtabhyaham Idam Kṛṣṇam Ekanksena Stito Jagat Atava Bahonaitena Kim Gyatena Tavarjuna Vishtabhyaham idham Kṛṣṇam Ekanksena stito jagat Atava bahonaitena Kingyatena tavarjuna Vishtabhyaham idham Kṛṣṇam Ekanksena stito jagat Atava bahonaitena Kingyatena tavarjuna Vishtabhyaham idham Kṛṣṇam Ekanksena stito jagat Atava bahonaitena Gyatena Kingyatena tavarjuna Vishtabhyaham idham Kṛṣṇam Ekanksena stito jagat. Ladies. Atava bahonaitena Kingyatena tavarjuna Vishtabhyaham idham Kṛṣṇam Ekanksena stito jagat. Anyone online?
Atava bahunaitena Kingyatena tavarjuna
Kingyatena tavarjuna
Vishtabhyaham idham Kṛṣṇam
Vishtabhyaham idham Kṛṣṇam
Ekamsena Stito Jagat.
Ekanshena stito jagat. Atava, or bahuna, many, etena, by this kind, kim, what, gyatena, by knowing, tava, your, Arjuna, O Arjuna, vishtabhya, pervading, aham, I, idam, this, Kṛṣṇam, entire, eka, by one, angshena, part, stitaha, am situated, jagat, universe. Translation. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Purport. The Supreme Lord is represented throughout the entire material universes by his entering into all things as the Supersoul. The Lord here tells Arjuna that there is no point in understanding how things exist in their separate opulence and grandeur. He should know that all things are existing due to Krishna's entering them as the Supersoul. From Brahma, the most gigantic entity, on down to the smallest ant, all are existing because the Lord has entered each and all and is sustaining them. There is a mission that regularly propounds that worship of any demigod will lead one to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or the Supreme Goal. But here in the 10th chapter, that idea is thoroughly discouraged. To completely eradicate this wrong idea, in this chapter Lord Krishna informs us that even the greatest demigods like Brahma and Shiva represent only part of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. He is the origin of everyone born, and no one is greater than him. He is asamordva, which means that no one is superior to him and no one is equal to him. In the Padma Purana, it is said that one who considers the Supreme Lord Krishna in the same category with demigods, be they even Brahma or Shiva, becomes at once an atheist. If, however, one thoroughly studies the different descriptions of the opulences and expansions of Krishna's energy, then one can understand without any doubt the position of the Lord, Sri Krishna, and can fix his mind in the worship of Krishna without a deviation. The Lord is all-pervading by the expansion of his partial representation, the Supersoul, who enters into everything that is. Pure devotees, therefore, concentrate their minds in Krishna consciousness in full devotional service. Therefore, they are always situated in the transcendental position. Devotional service and worship of Krishna are very clearly indicated in this chapter in verses 8 through 11. That is the way of pure devotional service. How one can attain the highest devotional perfection of association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead has been thoroughly explained in this chapter. Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, a great acharya in disciplic succession from Krishna, concludes his commentary on this chapter by saying, Yat Chaktileshat Suryadhya Bhavan Yat Yugra Tejasaha Yadang Shena Dritang Vishvam Sakrishno Dashamerchite. From Lord Krishna's potent energy, even the powerful sun gets its power, and by Krishna's partial expansion, the whole world is maintained. Therefore, Lord Sri Krishna is worshipable. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 10th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the opulence of the Absolute. So, it's interesting that, let's go back to those essential verses that are mentioned in this purport, text 8 through 11 of this chapter. And I think we've become clear in our classes that these are the 4 essential verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll read those translations again. Krishna says, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So, this is the essential 4 verses. Okay. Can you see if they're in the back there or if they're on the altar? They're on the altar. Okay, I'll let it go. Okay, so Krishna is first of all answering the first sutra of the Vedanta Sutra. There's a book called the Vedanta Sutra. Sutra means aphorisms, or probably we'll call them little codes. And Veda means knowledge, Anta means end or culmination. So this work is the culmination of all the knowledge in the Vedas, in sutra form, in little aphoristic form. And it begins with a injunction, a kind of an order for us, for human beings. Janmadyasya, atato brahma jigyasa. Now, therefore, having come to this human form of life, one should inquire, you should inquire into Brahman. Then the question is, okay, suppose I accept that, what is that Brahman? So he gives the next sutra, Janmadyasya yataha. Now, Janma means birth. We just had Janmashtami, so that should be that. At least that one word we should know, birth. And then the next word is Adi, Janmadi. Adi means etc. So after birth comes maintenance, and after maintenance comes destruction. This is the nature of anything material, whether it's our bodies or this building or the whole universe. So Janmadyasya yataha. So the point is that from which or from whom everything is born or created, who maintains everything and ultimately destroys everything. That's what we have to inquire into. And the Brahma Sutra, or another name for it is Brahma Sutra, concludes, for those who read it honestly, that it's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it needs commentary, because they're just aphoristic sutras, and you have to expand on and explain them. So there's impersonalistic commentary on this called the Sharirika Bhashya, famously written by Shankaracharya. And I won't get into detail about that, but that's the origin of the Mayavad philosophy. Which simple summary of that is that the ultimate reality is not a person, but it's Brahma Jyoti, the effulgence, that white light that we will see in us with our spiritual vision. And we, as individuals, are ultimately not persons, but we're just pure spiritual energy, consciousness. And our perfection is liberation, getting free of birth, old age, disease, and death. By regaining that understanding and our meditation on Brahman and merging into the Supreme Brahman and losing our individual identity. Now, for a devotee, this doesn't sound like much fun, because we know that perfection of Krishna consciousness, or bhakti yoga, is to regain our eternal spiritual body and, in Prabhupada's immortal phrase, go back home, back to Godhead, to the spiritual world, and rejoin Krishna in his eternal blissful Leela. That's the devotee's aspiration. And from day one, you're training for that. You're serving. You're chanting the name, you're cleaning the floor, you're taking prasadam. This is another service. You're hearing Bhagavad Gita. That's a service to Krishna. Begins with hearing, shravanam, and chanting. Shravanam, kirtanam, and Vishnu smaranam. And in this way, remembering Krishna. So, the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, the Srimad Bhagavatam is certified by Lord Chaitanya to be the best commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Historically, you have each of the sampradayas. I think Ramanuja wrote a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Madhvacharya did, and but we didn't need one in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, because Lord Chaitanya certified it to be the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. But after some time, after Lord Chaitanya left, there was a lot of complaint by some of the leading priests in Jaipur that Gaudiya Vaishnava has no proper commentary and therefore it's not a bona fide sampradaya. So taking that challenge, they approached Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who was the chief scholar at that time after the six Goswamis, I think. Yeah, after. But he was also very elderly. So his main disciple, Baladev Vijabhushan, whom this book is dedicated to, he wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, which Srila Prabhupada heavily relied on for his purports. He was the disciple of Vishnu Chakravarti, and he took up the task. He felt himself unworthy, so he approached Govinda, the deity that Rupa Goswami installed in Vrindavan, but he had to leave Vrindavan and go to Jaipur because the Muslims came and there was danger for the deity. So he took shelter of Jaipur. Jaipur means victory. They couldn't conquer Jaipur because it's surrounded by mountains, and there's only one entrance, and it's all fortified and everything. So he's the main deity there in Jaipur. So, but Baladev went to him repeatedly, I think, and prayed for the inspiration and the ability to write this commentary. I think he had one of those things where the garland falls down, and he took that as a certification, you can do it. But he felt that Govinda was writing it, so he called it Govinda Bhashya, that he was just described. See? So we do have a commentary, but the Bhagavatam is the main commentary. So, just to get to the point, the essence of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami, which are like a model for guru teaching the disciple, is divided into three sections. Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. Now, Sambandha begins with who am I, who is God, what is this world, how did it come into being, and what's the relationships between me and this world, me and God, God and me, like that. That's Sambandha. Sambandha means relationship. So that's the first thing, and that's answered in the first verse here. Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo. I am the source of everything. That's Janmanjasya yataha. I am Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Everything comes from me. He reiterates it. Now, then immediately he goes into Sambandha. Iti madva bhajante mam buddha. The intelligent person who knows this, has faith in my words here, iti madva bhajante mam, worships me. Worships me how? Bhava samanvita, with great attention, fully. You see? So immediately then the question is, how do they worship me? That's in the second verse. They place their minds on me, they devote their lives to me, madgata prana. They're always meeting together and glorifying me, bodhiyanta parasparam. Katayantas, speaking about me, always. And what's the result? Tushyanti chadamanti. They feel great satisfaction and enjoy transcendental bliss. That's just two verses. Then, what does Krishna do on the other side? How does he respond? The whole thing in bhakti is that it's not a one-way street. You're serving Krishna, you're glorifying him, and then he responds. For them, Tesham Satata Yuktama, who are always linked to me, and he's describing the previous verse, or anyone who's linked to him always, in bhakti, bhajatam, with love, priti purvakam, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. The dami means I give. Text 10, page 432. Buddhi yogam tam. Yena, by which they can come to me. What more do you want? Well, then he reiterates it in the last verse. Out of my compassion for them. So the whole thing is based on feeling. It's not just some transaction, you see. Krishna is merciful to us. He sees our sincerity. And with the shining lamp of knowledge, Jnana Deepa, I destroy the ignorance in their heart. Nashayami Atma Bhavasto, where the Atma Bhava, it's in our hearts. So I destroy that. So it's a complete lesson there, you see. If we believe the first verse, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, that Krishna is the source of everything, then we are related to him. He's the one we're looking for. And it proceeds. Now Arjuna responds by glorifying Krishna. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shastratam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn and the greatest. And he says, it's not just my idea. He says, You said that, and all the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, Vyasadeva, they confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. So now he says, I believe everything you say. Sarvam etamrita manye. That's the next verse. 14, see? I believe it, everything you say, yanman varasi keshava, nahite bhagavan vyaktim, vidu deva nadanava. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. So he believes that Krishna is God, and that the best way to know him is to always think of him and so forth. So now the next verse should be the end of the Bhagavad Gita. And he said, now I'll fight because I surrendered. But no. He says, indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency, O supreme point, origin of all, Lord of all. Okay, still glorifying. Then he says, please tell me in detail about your divine opulence by which you pervade all these worlds. What's the need? He's already there. He says, I believe you're God. He said, and it's explained. In this verse, it appears that Arjuna is already satisfied. No. In this verse, it appears that Arjuna is dissatisfied with his understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By Krishna's grace, Arjuna has personal experience, intelligence, knowledge, whatever else a person may have, and through all these agencies, he has understood Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For him, there's no doubt. Yet he is asking Krishna to explain his all-pervading nature. So people in general, and the impersonalists in particular, concern themselves mainly with the all-pervading nature of the Supreme. And so for them, now he's going to say, please describe how you're manifest in this world by all these wonderful things. And then Krishna will begin his whole list, so that we can perceive Krishna even in our ordinary life. Just like this ocean, right? Most of us are aware that we're near the ocean, right? So the ocean is a very impressive manifestation, material manifestation. But it's, Hare Krishna, welcome. It's Bhagavad Gita class. Did you want to see the deities? Yeah, 8:15. Okay. Yeah, if you want to, unless you want to be in class. So Krishna says here, of bodies of water I am the ocean, I believe. And if you want to get into the ocean, of fish I am the shark. I don't think we want to see that one first. But just to go down to the beach and to see the ocean, says, oh, what an amazing manifestation of Krishna's power and glory. How wonderful my Lord is. And then you go on, there's a whole, go on with a list. And of course he's speaking in the Vedic times, so there many of them are, we need to know who they are. But each one is the best of his class, the best of. So this is a way in which neophytes can transcendentalize their life, just ordinary life, to see. And so at the end, we're at the end of the chapter now. So he says, the verse before the one we read, Yad Vibhuti Matsattvam, know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. So, there's the list, but now we can see in our own environment. When you see something that's really opulent or glorious or amazing or whatever, said, oh, this is showing just a little bit of Krishna's glory, you see. So this is a way that you can always be full of Krishna consciousness. We had a similar thing at the beginning, kind of more rudimentary, is that rasoham apsukonteya. You drink water, I'm the taste. You wake up in the morning, you see the sun, I'm the light of the sun and the moon. You see? He goes through all the senses. I'm the fragrance of the earth, right? Every sense is covered. So if you remember that, then whenever you see the sun or you smell any fragrance, or you can remember Krishna. It's a way of remembering Krishna. Now, we're not just into remembering Krishna, we're into serving Krishna. And so that's where the science of bhakti comes in. How can we perceive the form of Krishna and serve it? Okay, we can't in our present, but Krishna's so kind, he comes as the deity form. So there's this whole science of, developed culture of serving, the Pancharatrika Vidhi given by Narada Muni, and that's what we try to follow here. Prabhupada gave it, but not all the things. It's too complicated, but simple. So we have a way of seeing Krishna even with our material eyes before we can see the spiritual form. And Krishna is so kind that if we worship this form nicely and follow the other principles, then eventually we'll be able to see his spiritual form everywhere in our hearts. So that's what this is all about. And it actually culminates in the next chapter, where he really shows his magnificence with the universal form. So much so that Arjuna gets scared. Who are you? You're not my Krishna. Right? And within his teeth, he's crushing the enemy soldiers. I mean, it's pretty scary. And finally, Arjuna says, "Show me that other form, okay?" So it's very dramatic. So we'll get into that soon. But I'm not going to go through all of these elements. I think you remember some of them and you can review them. But basically, the best in each class of things, is Krishna, is a manifestation, is his power and his glory. But at the end, Krishna says, what's the use of all this detail? He says it right here. We read that. With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. So that is the super soul. And if knowing the super soul, if you just go walk down the alley here or anywhere, and you look around and you think about the super soul in every living thing, the plants too, they also have the super soul. Whereas there's a soul, there's a super soul. You see? But not just that. Within every atom, there's a super soul. Everything is being sustained by the Lord from moment to moment. So how can you forget the presence of God? Well, the way you can do that is just by letting the illusory energy take over. And it becomes a field for us to enjoy or whatever, and that's Maya. So when we stay in the service mood, and that service can simply be remembering, just sitting, reading Prabhupada's book, reading the Krishna book or the Bhagavad Gita, that's service. We should know those 9 services: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Arjunam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So everything we do is within those 9. This is Prahlad. First, hearing. Hearing is always first. And it also includes reading. You may read silently, that's a form of hearing. Hearing is more powerful, and usually, especially amongst devotees. But even if one is in one's own room or, reading the book or on the bus or whatever it is, you're linked to Krishna in the most important way, which is hearing. Even if it's just, you're not hearing, you're hearing in your mind, but you're certainly remembering. So that's why Prabhupada's books are so invaluable in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so remember our verse, that we're praying to Krishna to please pour down your merciful words, and so of bringing us closer to spiritual freedom. So if there's no questions, we can proceed to chapter 11. Okay, Arjuna Vacha. Now, one thing about Sanskrit, sometimes the verse itself, the meter, is an indication of an emotion, just in the meter. So there's an extra syllable in the first line. It's not 8, but it's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Madanugrahaya paramam. You see? So that's an indication of Arjuna's high emotion. Okay, Arjuna Vacha. Madanungrahaya paramam Guyam adhyatma sangitam Yatvayoktam bachastena Mohoyam vigato mama. Arjuna said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. Purport. This chapter reveals Krishna as the cause of all causes. He is even the cause of the Mahavishnu, from whom the material universes emanate. Krishna is not an incarnation. He is the source of all incarnations. That has been completely explained in the last chapter. Now, as far as Arjuna is concerned, he says that his illusion is over. This means that Arjuna no longer thinks of Krishna as a mere human being, as a friend of his, but as the source of everything. Arjuna is very enlightened and is glad that he has such a great friend as Krishna, but now he is thinking that although he may accept Krishna as the source of everything, others may not. So in order to establish Krishna's divinity for all, he is requesting Krishna in this chapter to show his universal form. Actually, When one sees the universal form of Krishna, one becomes frightened, like Arjuna. But Krishna is so kind that after showing it, he converts himself again into his original form. Arjuna agrees to what Krishna has several times said. Krishna is speaking to him just for his benefit. So Arjuna acknowledges that all this is happening to him by Krishna's grace. He is now convinced that Krishna is the cause of all causes and is present in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. So this is kind of this thing going on where Arjuna has taken the position, by Krishna's influence, of a conditioned soul so that the Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. And now he's going through these stages of realization, you see. Actually, he's an eternal friend. You know, he was back with Krishna back when he spoke to the sun god millions of years ago, but he forgot. You know, so when Krishna in the 4th chapter, speaks about that, he's doubtful. How could that be? We're contemporaries. You know, how could you have spoken millions of years ago to the sun god? So Krishna says, "Drobi sanabhyatma bhutanam isharopasan prakatam svamadishtaya sambhavami atmamaya." First he says, "Bahuni me vatitani janmani tabacharjana tanyaham vedasavani natam betta aparantapa." Many, many births have I had in the past, and so have you. But you forgot them all, and I don't. And the difference is Arjuna keeps changing his body. It's the same Arjuna, the same soul, but he's occupying different bodies. But like Krishna's body never changes. So Krishna doesn't forget, but we do because we changed the body. You know, if we didn't, we couldn't live. We'd have the most massive case of PTSD you could imagine. It's Krishna's mercy. I don't remember my past life, and I don't want to remember. Hare Krishna. All right, going on. Bhavapyo hi bhutanam Shuta vistarasho maya Tvatta kamala patraksha Mahatmyam apichavyayam. O Lotus-eyed One, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity and have realized your inexhaustible glories. Purport. Arjuna addresses Lord Krishna as Lotus-eyed One. Krishna's eyes appear just like the petals of a lotus flower. Out of his joy, for Krishna has assured him in a previous chapter, Aham Kṛṣṇasya jagatak pabhavak pralayas tadha. I am the source of the appearance and disappearance of this entire material manifestation. Close quote. Arjuna has heard of this from the Lord in detail. Arjuna further knows that in spite of his being the source of all appearances and disappearances, he is aloof from them. As the Lord has said in the 9th chapter, he is all-pervading, yet he is not personally present everywhere. That is the inconceivable opulence of Krishna, which Arjuna admits that he has thoroughly understood. So this is Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Who can translate that for me? Do you know that phrase, Mahima? Go ahead. Achintya means? Inconceivably.
Yes.
Then?
One and different.
Yes, actually it's different in one, but we always say one and different. Achintya Bheda is different, but at the same time one, a Bheda. So that doesn't compute materially. It's a spiritual paradox. But that's an essential. And that phrase was given, or I don't know if it was given by Lord Chaitanya, but it's applied to his philosophy. You know, a lot of his philosophy, and it's very, very. It's also in the Bhagavad Gita here, not in so many words, but. So this is the inconceivable opulence of Krishna, which Arjuna admits that he has thoroughly understood. Evam etad yathatvam Atmanam Parameshwara Drashtamichami te Rupam Aishwaram Purushottama. O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. Purport. The Lord said that because he entered into the material universe by his personal representation, the cosmic manifestation has been made possible and is going on. Now, as far as Arjuna is concerned, he is inspired by the statements of Krishna. But in order to convince others in the future who may think that Krishna is an ordinary person, Arjuna desires to see him actually in his universal form, to see how he is acting from within the universe, although he is apart from it. Arjun's addressing the Lord as Parameshvara is also significant. Since the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is present within Arjuna himself. Therefore, he knows the desire of Arjuna, and he can understand that Arjuna has no special desire to see him in his universal form, for Arjuna is completely satisfied to see him in his personal form of Krishna. But the Lord can also understand, also that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to convince others. Arjuna did not have any personal desire for confirmation. Krishna also understands that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to set a criterion, for in the future there would be so many impostors who would pose themselves as incarnations of God. The people, therefore, should be careful. One who claims to be Krishna should be prepared to show these universal form to confirm his claim to the people. So this comes up again a couple of times later. That again, Arjuna is not really hankering to see that universal form. But as Prabhupada explains here, that is kind of an insurance. If someone claims to be God, then you can say, well, show me a universal form. Some form of your universal form. You may not, And of course they won't be able to do that. So, again and again you'll find in the books, don't take anyone as Krishna except Krishna himself. And they're all imposters. Nobody can become God. You either are God or you're not God. You're either God or an expansion of God, but you can't become God. So that's a very important point. And that's, Prabhupada, I think you mentioned this again. Manyase yarita chakyam maya drashtamiti prabho yogeshura tato me tvam darshayatmanam abhyayam. Now this word abhyayam is the most commonly used word in the Bhagavad Gita. If you look at just text 2, there it is. At the end it's often used at the end of a verse. You see that? Chabhyayam. It's interesting. It means eternal, ever existing. Avyaya. Now vyaya is the root of the word vyadi, which means disease. So disease is a kind of a disintegration type. So Krishna and the soul is abhyayam, no disintegration, eternal. If you think that I am able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self. Purport. It is said that one can neither see, hear, understand, nor perceive the Supreme Lord, Krishna, by the material senses. But if one is engaged in loving transcendental service to the Lord from the beginning, then one can see the Lord by revelation. Every living entity is only a spiritual spark. Therefore, it is not possible to see or to understand the Supreme Lord. Arjuna, as a devotee, does not depend on his speculative strength. Rather, he admits his limitations as a living entity and acknowledges Krishna's inestimable position. Arjuna could understand that for a living entity, it is not possible to understand the unlimited infinite. If the infinite reveals himself, then it is possible to understand the nature of the infinite by the grace of the infinite. The word Yogeshwara is also very significant here because the Lord has inconceivable power. If he likes, he can reveal himself by his grace, although he is unlimited. Therefore, Arjuna pleads for the inconceivable grace of Krishna. He does not give Krishna orders. Krishna is not obliged to reveal himself unless one surrenders fully in Krishna consciousness and engages in devotional service. Thus it is not possible for persons who depend on the strength of their mental speculations to see Krishna. And you can see why this is the reason why the coin of the realm, so to speak, of bhakti is this humble position. In the 13th chapter, there's a whole list of elements of knowledge that one should try to cultivate. One of which is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshana Darshanam. Who can tell me what that means? You know. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi. I just mentioned what Vyadi is. Vyadi is disease. So what are the other three? Birth and old age. Birth, death, old age, and disease. I like to say them in order. That's not. It's usually Janma Mrityu. That's birth and death. Birth, old age, disease. and death. That's usually the order that comes in. But anyway, so that's one of the elements of knowledge, but the very first one is humility. Amanitvam. Mana is pride. Amana means lack of pride. You know, that's the mood you have to approach the spiritual master. That really should be the mood that we approach reading Prabhupada's books. It's just such a blessing. Here is Krishna personally through his words. His pure devotee is here, and they're willing to enlighten us. All we have to do is that key element: pay attention. We have to clear and just pay attention, receive. You see, and that's a great blessing. And then the next one is adambitvam. Now, Prabhupada usually translates it as pride also, but it's false pride. It's hypocrisy. It's pretending to be something you're not. If you're really into, material life, then you want to have a position, pretend to have a position that you don't have, because then you can control people, you can make money. In other words, everything is built on lies. And that's the nature of Maya. It's really basic. She's lying to us. Yeah, you can be happy. Come on. It's obvious. Look, they're enjoying. You can also enjoy. Okay. And then you get cheated. You see? It's a big con game. So that's because we didn't want to be humbly serving Krishna and not be the controller, but be the controlled. Take the pleasure of service rather than mastership. So, Amanadvam, Trinad Abhisuni Chena. Who can translate that for me? Trinad Abhisuni Chena. Come on, Shed, you know this one. What's a trina? A trina. Blade of grass. As humble as a blade of grass. This is the verse we're supposed to keep around our neck. Trinad Abhisuni Chena. More humble. The api means more humble than a blade of grass. And what about the next one? Tora or apisahishnuna. What is it? More tolerant. That api means more tolerant. Yeah. Which is really hard to be. You can see these poor trees standing out here. When I came 35 years ago, they were standing, they're still standing. How tolerant you got to be. The heat, the rain, the guys cutting you off, Oh. Trees are most tolerant. So, and then aman and amanadena, there's the word mana. Not one, any honor for oneself. Manadena, ready to give honor to others, you see. Then what's the advantage? What's the result of all this? Kirtani is adahari, then Krishna gives you the power to chant. More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, to think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. Such qualities induce the Lord, attract the Lord. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant his name incessantly until the final hour. The whole thing, the key. So it's just opposite. In this world, everyone's trying to be on top, control this and that, and if you're not, you're frustrated. If you're really crazy, you'll shoot something. It's madness. It's just madness. Our real path forward to ultimate success in life is being a humble recipient of the knowledge, and then a humble servant, and trying to always remember Krishna. That's the basic thing. So, this is not possible for us to depend on the strength of the mental speculation. So, Krishna, all right. So that was what we read. And time for one more. So, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Pashyame Parta Rupani, Shatasho Tasahastashaha, Nana Badhani Divyani, Nana Varna Kutinicha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of varied, divine, and multicolored forms." Purport: Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in his universal form, which, although a transcendental form, is just manifested for the cosmic manifestation and is therefore subject to the temporary time of this material nature. As the material nature is manifested and not manifested, similarly this universal form of Krishna is manifested and not manifested. It is not eternally situated in the spiritual sky like Krishna's other forms. As far as the devotee is concerned, he is not eager to see the universal form, But because Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in this way, Krishna reveals this form. This universal form is not possible to be seen by any ordinary man. Krishna must give one the power to see it. So, it's a temporary form, but there's different kinds of universal form, like the Vishvarup. In the second, I think the second canto, yes, it's like the first step in God realization is to see the rivers as Krishna's veins. The sun and moon as his eyes. And I remember I was flying back to San Diego one year, and we were flying over the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, and I was just seeing the incredible mountain range, and it just reminded me what it said there is the bones of the universal form. It was inspiring. And that's another way of seeing. Why is it the first step? Because it's a way of seeing everything as part of this. It brings God, your vision of God, into everything that you see. Everything fits in there somewhere. As the sun come up, that's the eye of the Lord. And this ocean and the rivers are the veins and like that. So that's another form. Anyone can see it, and if you have that, knowledge, then you start to become humbled by the grandeur of God's, magnificent power, and like that. But ultimately, devotees are much more interested in the personal form of Krishna standing there with the flute, because then you can really relate. Okay, one more. Shri Bhagavana Vacha. Shri Bhagavana Vacha. Pashime Partha Rupani Shadasho Tasahasrashaha Nana Vadhani Dibhyani Nana Varna Kutini Cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see how my opulences, hundreds of thousands of varied divine..." My dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of varied, divine, and multicolored forms. Purport. Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in his universal form, which, although a transcendental form... we just read that. I'm sorry. Pashayadityan vasun rudran ashvinao marutastata bahunya drishta purvani Pasyascharayani Bharata. O best of the Bharatas, see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, Ashwini Kumars, and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard of before. Purport. Even though Arjuna was a personal friend of Krishna and the most advanced of learned men, it was still not possible for him to know everything about Krishna. Here it is stated that humans have neither heard nor known of all these forms and manifestations. Now Krishna reveals these wonderful forms. So we'll leave it at that. I'll just end with a little poem. We've been reading so many Sanskrit poems, but here's an English one. Okay. Okay, so here's something about Lord Brahma. You probably haven't heard before. Ashtabhishita Pratakayana Vavayana Vakakaleen Kalayan Shataditamukto Malara Prishte Maholatati. Lord Brahma is the gravest soul, supremely self-controlled. An ocean of composure, he's a wonder to behold. But when he hears Lord Krishna's flute produce its maddening sound, he loses it, and on his swan he starts to roll around. Just contemplate that for a minute. And while we do, we'll prepare for our tea. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.